This video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. In this video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about cleaning your Xbox Series X. Now before we get to the cleaning part, we need to talk about airflow, where the airflow comes in, where the airflow goes out, and where is the safest place to put your Xbox Series X console. And the first thing to know is that most of the air is going to come in from the back, right through these holes. But also there's holes on the bottom, so air will go through these intake holes as well. Now, no matter what game console we're talking about, one of the most important things is the placement of the console. You definitely don't want it anywhere near the floor, especially if you have pets or if you live in a dusty environment. That's just gonna make it so the console is much closer to the dirt and dust and hair that's on the floor. So it's gonna get sucked up right into the air holes on the bottom or right into the air holes on the back of the Xbox Series X. As you can see, all of the air intake holes are near the bottom of the console. So one of the best things you can do is make sure it's up off the floor. That'll ensure that it's pulling in nice, clean air into the system. And then the other thing we need to talk about is ventilation. You definitely want to make sure that there's plenty of air around the console. So you don't want to put this side of the console right up against a wall or even really close to it, because that's going to make it so it's going to be really hard to suck air in through the intake holes because it's going to be too close to that wall or side of your cabinet or wherever the console is located. I always recommend giving about a foot of clearance just to make sure there's plenty of room for the air to get right in easily. So no matter whether your Xbox is up vertically like this or whether you have it sat down like this, you always need to make sure that there's plenty of space between the console and any intake or exhaust air outlets. So the top of the console or the side is going to be the exhaust output. So it's going to suck air in through here, it's going to go up through the heat sink, and then it's going to be outputted this way. So you want to make sure that you're also not putting this right up against a wall or the side of a drawer or TV cabinet or anything like that. You need to make sure that the whole thing has plenty of space all around it. This will ensure that it's pulling in plenty of air and the cooling system can do its job. Now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about cleaning. Cleaning can be done in several stages depending on how dirty the console is. If you see very little dust on the intake and exhaust ports on the Xbox console, then you know that you can probably just get away with a stage 1 cleaning. But before we talk about that, let's talk about today's sponsor, the Ridge Wallet. My Ridge Wallet is my new favorite wallet. Not only does it look amazing, but it can also hold up to 12 cards and it fits easily into my front pocket. And you can't even tell it's there. Not only is there room for those 12 cards, there's also room for cash on the back of the wallet. Ridge has over 30 colors and styles, including my two favorites, burnt titanium and carbon fiber. These wallets are made so well that they even come with a lifetime warranty. Ridge is so confident that you'll like them, they let you test drive them for 45 days, and if you don't like it, you can send it back for a full refund. Now, as you probably know, Father's Day is coming up soon, and in my opinion, the Ridge Wallet makes a great Father's Day gift. Dads tend to cram their wallets full of all sorts of stuff, and a Ridge Wallet can help your dad ditch that old bulky wallet. So you can help your dad update his wallet game by going to ridge.com/TronicsFix for 10% off your order. Now let's get back to that stage 1 cleaning. So this is just going to be a very simple cleaning. If you notice that your Xbox is just starting to get a little bit of dirt buildup on the outside, then you just need to basically brush it off and maybe just give it a minor cleaning. This is the type of brush I always recommend for this type of cleaning, and it's pretty easy to clean. You'll just want to run the brush over all of these intake holes, and it's always good to have a vacuum that you can just suck up any of the loose dust that comes off from the brush. Also though, it's not just about these ports on the back, you also need to make sure and get the ports on the bottom. You can do that just with the console sitting down like this, just by brushing each one, or you can set it up on the end like this and brush the ports out just like that. Now also, if you just need to clean off the outside of the Xbox, you can just use something like a damp paper towel or a microfiber cleaning cloth. So for that, you'll just want to go over it just with a little bit of water on the paper towel and then use the dry side. Just like that. That will get any of the dust that's built up on the outside of the console. Now, along with the intake ports on the back and on the bottom, you will probably want to clean off the exhaust ports. And those are located right here. These are the ones with the green underneath, and you'll basically want to do the same thing there. Just take a brush and brush all of them, and use something like a vacuum to get all of the fine dust. If you just brush it like this, it can actually fall back into the console, so it's really good to have a vacuum. You can also point the console down like this and then do your brushing, but it's usually easier with a vacuum. Now, if you notice some dust buildup down inside the holes that you can't get to with your brush, you can just use a cotton bud and just get right down in there. I use isopropyl alcohol, and you can just get down in here and clean each one. Just like that. And the great thing about isopropyl alcohol is it dries very quickly and doesn't leave any residue. Now let's talk about stage 2 cleaning. One of the really great things about the Xbox Series X console is it is much easier to clean than some of the other consoles. PS5. All you have to do is take off the back cover, and I'll show you how to do that now. First, you'll notice that this console has been taken apart before. I have broken this seal right here. This is actually completely legal, and Microsoft cannot void your warranty just because this seal has been broken. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't try to do it anyways, but legally, they can't deny warranty coverage just because of that. For stage 2 cleaning, we need to remove this screw. Then we need to remove this screw. And like I said before, if you've not taken your console apart before, then this sticker will be covering it and it won't be visible. You do have to break through the sticker, or you can peel the sticker off to get to that screw. After those screws are removed, you'll need to pry up the back cover. Just like that. There's just little clips that hold it in, and it's actually fairly easy to get off. These are all the little clips that hold it in. And as you pry on this back cover, each of these clips will release. Now, once you remove that back cover for stage 2 cleaning, this is what you're gonna see. But before we actually talk about cleaning, let's talk about airflow. It's gonna be much easier to clean if you understand the airflow of this console. Down here, there are the intake holes, along with down here. Now, I have removed this cover so you can't see them, but this is where the air intake holes are. Up here is where the exhaust holes are. So that means the Xbox Series X is pulling air in from down here, and then the air is channeled through the heatsink right here, and then up through the fan and out of the console through the exhaust ports. Now, this little black band you can see right here has a very important function, and that is to seal up the air chamber, and that will help the air channel through the heatsink and also through the power supply. Now that we understand airflow, let's talk about how to clean the inside. If there's a little bit of dirt and debris inside the Xbox Series X, it's probably gonna be caught right on these heatsink fins. So what you're gonna wanna do is get a vacuum and your brush, and then just go down and clean off all of the dirt. The brush can loosen it, and the vacuum will pull all of it out. And that will get most of the dirt and debris that is caught up on these fins. These fins need to be as clean as possible because this is where the cooling happens. The air moves over these fins, and as the air moves over them, it takes a bunch of the heat and then exhausts it out the top of the console. This heatsink is directly attached to the main chip on the board, and that is where most of the heat is produced. So it's very important to keep these fins clean so they can get rid of as much heat as possible. That's all there is for stage 2 cleaning. You basically just have to remove this back cover, and then you can get right to these heatsink fins. That's one of the great things about the Series X, is cleaning it is super easy. But let's talk about stage 3. If you have a Series X that's just caked with dirt and dust, and there's a thick film of dirt and dust on the heatsink, and then there's also a lot of dirt and dust around the fan, let's talk about how to fix that. And the first step to stage 3 is gonna be to remove the fan. We'll be just using a Torx T8, and we need to remove this one large screw right here, and then this screw over here, and this screw over here. After all those screws are removed from the fan, we need to remove this fan connector. Now I'm pulling on the connector that's attached to the wires and not the connector that's attached to the motherboard. So you can see right here, this is the connector I'm pulling on, not this connector. Now with the connector removed and all the screws out, the fan just pops right out. So this is the back side of the fan. This is where most of the dust and dirt will likely be if you have a really dirty console. And the fan can just be cleaned like all the rest of it. I would just take a brush like this and just clean up all the dirt and dust, and then just vacuum all of that up as I clean. If you have some serious dirt and dust, you can use the Q-tip with isopropyl alcohol, and then also you can use a paper towel soaked in water or IPA, and that will also get all the dirt and dust from around the fan. After the fan is removed, we want to get all the rest of the guts out of this Xbox Series X. So I'm going to remove the stand next, remove the disk drive next, remove these ribbon cables, and then we can pull out the whole center chassis. There's the little tab right here that I need to get a pry tool in and pull up on, and then we can twist the stand to get it off. A lot of times to twist it, I use the little pry tool, and there we go. After the stand is off, we got 5 screws we need to remove under it. Then we have 1 more screw for the disk drive vibration dampener. Then we can remove that. Then we need to remove the cables from the back of the disk drive. And then we can pull the disk drive out. Once the disk drive is removed, we need to remove these 2 ribbon cables. For the large ribbon cable, we need to pop the lock up like that, then we can pull it out. For the small ribbon cable, we push down on the locking tab, then we can pull straight out, and that's the locking tab right there. Now with that done, we just need to remove this ribbon cable from that center chassis. I'm gonna push up just a little bit this way, like that. Move these ribbon cables out of the way, and we can pull the whole center chassis out of the Xbox. Now with the entire chassis out, we can really get to this heatsink for any cleaning we need to do there. With heat sinks, I always start with brushing it out. Then if there's still buildup down inside between the fins, I will normally use some canned air. Now, the one other thing we need to check for the stage 3 cleaning is the power supply. If you remember, when this was inside of the console, there's an air chamber right here where the air goes up here. And there's also an air intake and chamber right here where the air goes up here. And you can see right here, there's sort of an air intake right here. And that air helps cool this top motherboard and cool this power supply. So the same thing applies here. This can all be brushed, and then once again, I do recommend using a vacuum to suck up all of that excess dust. You can also use compressed air, that works just fine. Usually I prefer to use a vacuum because with compressed air, that will get all those dust particles all over in the air, and then it'll settle on all your tools and all your equipment and everything like that in your work area. So after that, basically the only thing left to do is just take a good look at this center chassis and make sure all of the dust and dirt has been removed, and then once that's done, you are done with stage 3. Another thing to remember is that if your Xbox Series X is very dirty or seems to be running hot quite often, you may also want to replace the thermal paste. I show you how to do that in my teardown video, and I'll link that right up above, so you can click on that and come hang out with me over there and see how to replace the thermal paste. Thank you to the Ridge Wallet for sponsoring this video. Thank you for hanging out with me today and watching it, and I hope you have a good one.